Good morning. I'm Rosemary DiTrolio, and you're listening to The Lightwalker's Path. It's a place to develop new insights, find your soul's purpose, hear enlightening conversation, and be inspired. Good morning. This is Rosemary DiTrolio, and this is The Lightwalker's Path. We're streaming on multiple platforms. You can find replays on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many other places, including my own website, rosemaryd.com. Join every Tuesday at 10 Eastern to have enlightening conversation and to shift you and find your soul's purpose. So today it's just me, and I thought I would speak today on shifting and awakening. And I know that a lot of people are hearing this word a lot, and maybe don't know what to do to shift or awaken the inner light in them. So that's what I want to talk about today. And the first thing I want to do is I want to start with an angel message I channeled this morning for everyone that's listening today. Okay, here it is. Every soul has light coded within. It's the mustard seed of faith mentioned in the Bible. As a seed is planted in the soul and in the soil of faith, it creates miraculous and swift changes. Seeds rest in the darkness. Some humans think that darkness is the problems or the stopping point, but all seeds need light to sprout. Faith and intention are vital, and gratitude helps a soul to shift and a seed to grow. So one of the things I want to start with is that when you have a time when you don't seem to be moving forward and you're in a resting spot, that's the darkness that you find yourself in. But darkness isn't necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes it's just a resting point. So you think of the seed, going into the soil, it rests in the darkness before it's ready to grow and send a seed down, send the roots down and create a beautiful flower or plant. And we're much the same way, that sometimes when you're ready for a big spiritual leap, something will happen, something will step in your way, something will give you a moment of pause before you're ready to leap and move ahead. I also pulled some cards, some angel cards. Usually when I channel, I directly channel as the one I just read to you. But I wanted to just share with you a few cards that I picked this morning, because I also asked if there's any other guidance that the cards would be able to tell me for you today as you're listening. So one of the things and one of the values that I want you to listen to first is truth and integrity. Truth and integrity is not only telling the truth to other people, but it's living in your authentic truth for what is right for you. So your authentic truth is what resonates with your true nature. The gift of that is finding serenity and peace, because when you are living in the values that you believe for yourself, you will be more peaceful. And many people live with the values that other people had for them, maybe when they were growing up. Maybe they're still doing the same thing they always did and they're afraid to make a shift. Another important value when you're making any kind of shift or change is living in divine timing. And this means that sometimes we can't force our will for things to happen. Sometimes when things are ready to shift, it will be effortless. And then all of a sudden, just things move along and you're like, wow, look at that. How did that happen? I find the same when I'm working with a client. When a client is ready to move ahead and shift, they don't dawdle. They get right to it. They sign up for something. They jump right in. But when they're really hesitant, that's a sign to me that they're not ready yet to move ahead. Maybe there's other things in their way. They'll usually give you excuses like, something's not quite right. I don't have the money for it. That's not really the issue, because when someone is ready for change, they will immediately move ahead on whatever it is that really resonates with them. And if it doesn't, they either wait or they'll be in that soil waiting to sprout again. All right. One of the really important practices that I do for myself and that really helps people to shift is living in gratitude. And this could be as simple as writing down each day what you find really vital and you have gratitude for. For instance, if it's a beautiful day, I might say, I really enjoy that the weather's been mild this year. I might enjoy that I can be outside without a really heavy coat on. That's a simple thing that you'd think, well, why would I be grateful for that? But you have to notice, and the more you notice small things to be grateful for, the more you will notice things to be grateful for. And that's part of what you would bring your attention to will increase. On the same token goes for if you notice things that are negative. So if you're the kind of person that's a pessimist and notices all the things that go wrong, the driver on the highway that's too slow, the store was out of the bread you wanted, whatever it is. If you're focusing on those things, you will notice more of the negative as well. We're kind of hardwired to notice negative over positive. That's called the reticulating activation system. And it was originally in place to help us learn from things that are dangerous or harmful to us. So that way, if we see them again, we can be ready and prepared. But today, there's no tiger chasing you. You're not going to die going across in your yard, with a wolf eating you. So the system is still in place from ancient times. And we have to remember that sometimes things that we consider really terrible, like, oh, the store is out of my bread today, that's such a minor thing. And if you're focusing on it, your activating system is acting like that's a tiger. And it will put in your fight or flight, which is not a good state to be in. The calmer you are, and the more that you notice the positive things, the calmer your whole system is. And the more grateful you are, the more vibration your energy field will have, and the more you're going to notice those positive things that can help you. Okay, so what is a spiritual shift? Okay, a spiritual shift happens when you are ready for the next step of what you came here on earth to do. It's also called a spiritual awakening. And at times people have had these in odd situations. For instance, let's say a person, God forbid, gets into an accident and they almost die. They might have a spiritual awakening at that moment to remind them that they're still here. They still didn't complete their life path, and this is what they have missed. Sometimes people will have a spiritual awakening with a certain situation that happens, maybe an illness, a death of a spouse, an almost accident, something with their children. It can happen for all kinds of reasons, but you don't want to have to be in trauma before you awaken. There are ways to do it that are better for you and easier. And of course, the easy path, it's a great way to be, right? So one of the things that you can do is go to your heart center and focus on the energy of your heart. And I'm going to walk you through how to do this right now. So if you'd like to join me, it's only a few minutes. And what you can do is put your feet flat on the ground. Take a deep breath. Put your hands on your heart center. And I want you to imagine, with as much clarity as you can, the feeling of love. And if you're not sure what to think about, you might have a pet you really adore, or a place you've been to that brings you a beautiful memory. It could be your child, and it could be just a moment in time, even just being in nature. Anything that brings you this beautiful, loving, heart-centered feeling. And just breathe in, breathe out, and focus on your heart center and see the energy as your heart fills with this feeling of love. If you're a visual person, you could even imagine the color pink streaming in through your heart center. And as you do this, you can sit with it and ask your heart, what do you need right now? What do you want? What can I do for you? And just see if anything comes in really fast. Usually if something comes in quick, it's what you need. Okay, and then you can fill your heart up with that beautiful pink light again and let it fill you. Okay, and then just relax, take a deep breath in and out. And if you did get any word, any feeling, any visual, any emotion, write it down, jot it down, and come back to it later. And then try this after the broadcast again. Put your hands on your heart. Imagine a beautiful scene or someone you love. And then tap into heart energy and ask your heart, what do you need? What can I do for you? And you will usually get something that comes in really quick. It could be something you already know that you've blocked. For instance, sometimes people will get, you need more love. You need to take care of yourself. You need to go for a walk. It could be anything that comes in very fast because that's the voice of your intuition and the voice of your heart. Your heart has energy and resonance to it. And the more you tap into heart energy, the less you will chatter brain energy. Brain energy is quite exhausting. If you ever try to figure out a very hard puzzle and you're sitting with it for an hour, it's exhausting because your brain energy, your brain uses up energy just like the rest of your body does when it's exercising. All right, so when you are working with heart energy, you are not working specifically with brain thinking energy. You're not working with what I think I should say or do. It's what you actually need, and your heart has wisdom to it. So try that out and see what comes up for you. And if something comes up and you have a question, you could email me at info@rosemaryd.com, and I can give you more insight on that. Okay. Many people wonder where do they belong. All right. And awakenings sometimes will shift where you are in life. And awakenings have the purpose of awakening you to what was in your blueprint when you were born. What did you write in there that you came here to do that you're not doing yet? Some clues come in from dreams. For instance, there's number combinations that come in through dreams. For instance, 5 is a karmic number that tells you that you came in here to do something in particular. There are other numbers as well that have certain qualities and meaning to them. So you can study your dreams. Another thing that you can do is to walk with faith. And that's really hard to do when you've been through a lot in your life and maybe you don't have the faith that you want to have. Sometimes just sitting in gratitude shifts you into a state knowing that there's more than ourselves. So that would be a very good place to start if you're very new at trying to figure out what your next step would be. There are many spiritual practices, and there's many different kinds of religions in the world. One of the things I did before I started channeling angels was I read across the library shelf and read everything I could find on metaphysical, angels, religions, sacred text, anything that I could figure out and understand, I would read. The reason why I did that was my angels really were kind of giving me the push that I needed this background to be able to do the work that I'm doing now. It also gave me a very open-minded viewpoint of all world religions and all people because there's truth in every major religion. And if you're reading a lot of them, you're going to notice there's this thread that runs through everything that is the same. Compassion, love, caring for other people, faith, gratitude, all those things are qualities and values that are woven in all these religions that teach love. Okay, if a religion teaches you to go out and kill people because you're right and they're not, that is not aligned with the highest good. What we want to do is align ourselves with the highest frequency of love and vibration to help other people and to also to help ourselves grow. So sacred texts can guide. Religion can also push a lot of people away from the faith that they had, mainly because they feel judged. I know I've met a lot of people through the years that told me that they don't even have any faith at all because they felt judged in their church, their religious synagogue, wherever they were. And what I always tell them is the place that you go isn't really the connection with God. That is a way to find it. Those are the rules and parameters set by a religion, but that's not the direct contact with God. Direct contact comes from prayer and the understanding that we're always linked into God. You just have to ask and you just have to be present with it. Okay, when you're out of alignment with something, you don't resonate with it, which means that it's harder for you to understand and be present with it. That's kind of why a lot of us will have friends that are similar to our beliefs because it's comfortable. They get you, you get them, it's comfortable. It can be uncomfortable to be faced with a belief that's different than your own, but it will help you grow. So I've met people of many different faiths and backgrounds, and I always ask them questions. Well, what do you believe? How do you perceive the energy of God? How do you, make yourself calm? How do you open up your spiritual understanding? And you'll get some very amazing answers and very interesting insights. For instance, in the Kabbalah and Jewish text, there's a lot of information about the power of numbers. There's rabbis that are specific to the Jewish faith that are called, they're readers. They're like prophets almost. And I never knew that. I had talked to one of my friends and she kind of told me. I've learned about some of the Hindi faith, and I thought that was quite interesting too, with the power of how they perceive their emotion and their inner guidance. Every major culture in the world also has a belief in spiritual power or angels, and I thought that's also really interesting to know. Some people really live in fear, and some of these religions really, really push the word fear down people's throats to the point where they're so afraid that they don't want to do anything. And my understanding, and I was raised Roman Catholic, but I have a pretty wide understanding of God in general, like how it works for me. I'm not saying I know everything, but how it works for me is that I understand that I have a God that loves me, and our higher power is this power and this really strong force of light that loves all of us. And that force of light is the one that I believe and I follow. Therefore, I'm not afraid to talk to God and say, listen, I need some guidance today. I need some help. I need to have an attitude change today. Whatever it is I feel I need, I directly talk to God. And that's what you can aspire to do as well. We're coming up on a sponsor break. This is the Lightwalker's Path. Please come back with me. I'll be right back after this break. Welcome back to the Lightwalker's Path. Grow your spirit with Rosemary. If you're listening live, you can text question. I would really love to hear from people today. That'd be just awesome. So today's is about making this shift and about opening to your spiritual awareness and how to do it. So one of the things I want you to tell you about is the word synchronicity, because this has happened throughout my life. Synchronicity is a coincidence, but you get so many of them, you're like, what is going on? I'm getting all these coincidences. A coincidence, I say, is God's way of remaining anonymous. So when I was writing, I write books, and one of the strange things that was happening is every time I start a new book or in the process of writing a new book, first thing that happens is I get spider webs everywhere on every window, including my car windows. This happens every time I start a new creative project because the spider is a sign or synchronicity for a storyteller. Okay, so that's number one. Number two is when I was writing my middle grade fiction book called Time Wheel, one of the things in it was a prayer wheel. And I had, written about the prayer wheel, how there's a scroll inside and has writing on the outside and how you turn it and it makes your prayers happen. But in the story for the kids' book that I wrote, the prayer wheel sends the main character back in time. And I had written some unusual names in my book, like Yeshi and Tenzin, who lived in Tibet way back in time. So while this is happening and I'm writing my story, I start getting a lot of these really weird synchronicities. So one of them that happened was I was working at the park one summer, and the people that rented a cabin in the park had the name Tenzin and Yeshi. What are the chances of those very, very unusual, odd Tibetan names that somebody would rent a cabin with those names while I'm writing the book? That was a really, really strong synchronicity for me that I was on the right track writing my story. The next thing that happened was I went to a vendor event, and I had written about this time wheel, the prayer wheel. I had a picture of it in my mind. So I go into the room, and dead ahead was a man who was Buddhist, and he was selling a lot of items on the table, including a prayer wheel. And the prayer wheel exactly matched the picture I had drawn and the picture in my mind of what I wanted in my story. And he told me about it, and he said, oh yeah, well, when you twirl the barrel, it makes the prayer inside of it even stronger. And the more times you turn it, the more your prayers get heard. I'm like, oh my gosh, I just wrote that in my book. And he opened up the top of it to show me there's a prayer scroll inside of the prayer wheel. That was another weird coincidence. Other things that happened when I was in the process of writing the Child of Lights book, which I'm in process writing now, one of the characters in my book, his name was Ram. Okay, so I pull in behind a car and the license plate was Ram. I know there's a Ram Dodge, car, but this was the actual license plate. And I said, okay, another coincidence. So I'm continuing to write that book. But I've had this happen every time that I have been in process of writing a book. The other thing that I want to tell you is, as someone that writes, It's very similar to our spiritual journey. Thank you, Gina. My friend gave me an idea this morning. It's like, oh, that's a great idea. So, when you're on a spiritual journey, sometimes you will have these odd things occur. For instance, maybe you're going along swimmingly, things are going great, and all of a sudden you're stopped. Something happens. Well, that's a moment that can either stop you, or you can say, let me delete this negative thought, just as I would delete a portion of my book, and rewrite what's going to happen next. The other thing that you can do is rewrite some of your history from when you were a child. For instance, let's say in your childhood you had a parent that was really kind of mean to you. Instead of focusing on, oh, poor me, I turned out this way because my mommy or my dad was not nice to me and I went through all this stuff as a kid, you can delete the old program and instead make a shift. How you make a shift is, this is the independence I learned from having a parent that didn't give me what I needed. That is a much more powerful way to live your life than going back and blaming a parent because they were clueless with what to do when they were raising you. And that's a better way to rewrite what you need for yourself. And that doesn't get rid of the idea that, a lot of people that I've met have been through some terrible experiences as children. And it's just awful. So it doesn't say it didn't happen. It doesn't say it didn't count. But it's a way to move ahead from keeping that in your brain for the next 25, 30 years that you're here on Earth. It's a better way and more powerful to take back your power and move ahead the best way you can. That's a miraculous way to make a shift because once you release old junk and old emotion and old things that happened, you can better able to make that shift for yourself to be happier in a better state of mind. So an awakening can occur many different ways. One is deciding to make a shift. When you decide that you're ready to let some old things go, new things will come into your life. When you decide that you're ready to see things from a what did I learn perspective rather than a blaming perspective, you will shift your life. It happens pretty quickly. Okay. When you begin to notice synchronicities and coincidences, you'll begin to shift your life because you're going to realize it's not just us. We have all these unseen helpers that are kind of pushing us along. And the only way that they can sometimes let us know what's going on is we get these weird coincidences. And you're like, oh, look at that. There's another one. When you see the same thing happen 3, 4, and 5 times in a row, you have to listen. Even 3 times. That's really a clue. Like, we're sending you coincidences you're not noticing. So that's another one. Many people right now that are at the beginning of the journey are starting to see 1111 again. And those clock combinations, 1111, those are the goalposts. That's the awakening number that kicks you through saying, listen, you've wasted time. We want you on your path now. That 1111 is a wake-up number. The 444, the angels are with you. 333, 111, those are also signals from the universe telling you that now is the time. Now is the time, we're with you. Okay. All right. If you don't know who you are, many times this happens after your kids are grown or you're divorced and you're starting a new life. You have to redefine where your authentic self is and what is right for you. And how you do this is some self-reflection. One of the ways that you can self-reflect is to write down steps along the way that you've actually done. So I don't want a to-do list, I want a to-done list. So when you have finished something, let's say you tried shifting your mindset and you've done it several times. You're going to write, I'm learning to shift my mindset. This is what I learned. All right. Let's say you've seen a couple coincidences and you'd notice them. You could say, wow, I've noticed 3 times that someone keeps mentioning yoga to me. I think I'll have to explore that. All right. That is a really good thing to do to keep you on track of moving forward instead of just noticing and then forgetting what you saw. So that's a good way to keep you going in the direction you want. It's always good in life to have a positive friend. If you have just one positive friend in your life, consider yourself extremely lucky because positive friends can do so much
to shift you, to remind you of who you are, to give you that encouragement that you might need in those times when you need encouragement. And just one of those is just like, that's golden, man. That's really golden. If you have more than one really good friend that's very positive, that's extremely lucky. Many people may have only one or two really close people in their life that they can really rely on. It may not be your spouse, it may not be a sister or brother. It could be just a friend that you met that is your spiritual friend that can help you grow. And everyone needs that in their life. The other thing that you can look at is, what are your values? All right. So, what you can do is, I want you to consider some values that you find important for you. And I see a beautiful color coming in from my friend. Um, Finally found you. I love the color is pink. Now's the time. Love what you do. Love what you have done. That's great. Thank you, Gina. Love you too. Talking about a really good friend. There she is. One person that's always there, when I need her. All right. Um, so consider your values, and you can write these down. One of the values that I consider really important to me is having integrity. If someone has integrity, they do what they say, they follow through, and you can trust their word. My mom always said, if you're going to say something, you better mean it. If you're going to say you're going to do it, you better do it. And mom always told me, just live your truth, talk your walk your talk. And that's really, really important, because I can't guide someone if I'm not doing this for myself. It's really important to live what you believe is your value. Another really important value for me is to be kind and compassionate and understanding. Those three things really go together, because it's really a mindset that you go through life with, the feeling that we're all here on a journey and we're all here to learn. So there's no need for me to downgrade someone's opinion or their mindset or their thoughts, because that's not helping me, and it's not seeing them through the eyes of, let's say, the light, the angels, and God. So the more that you could do that in your life, the less judgmental you'll be, and the more discerning when someone's energy is in alignment with you or not in alignment with you. And I'm not saying bad or good, because sometimes we need someone at our alignment level to partner with, and sometimes you need someone else to kind of shift you. So we all make our choice. Okay. If you're living in fear, you're living stuck. And it's it's pretty common for a lot of people, excuse me, to be fearful of change, because change is uncomfortable. And sometimes you have to be uncomfortable to move ahead and to grow. One of the most uncomfortable things, I've been through several of them in my life, but one of them was years ago when I had a baby, and I was divorced, and I had this little baby to raise. So I was single for like 9 or 10 years before I remarried. And at first it was really uncomfortable, because I didn't know how to navigate doing that. And I really learned from it. I learned independence. I learned compassion. I learned that when I was a teacher and I came across parents that were single parents, I understood how hard it was, because I had done it. So a lot of times you have to walk through someone else's journey as well to understand what it is. And I think that's the reason why we go through these difficulties in our life. Okay, go here. All right. We're coming up on a sponsor break in about a minute, but what I want you to do is, I want you to stay with me, and while we're on break, jot down a value that you have. If you want to share it, you can certainly text it in to me, or just keep it for your learning after. And I'm going to do a meditation when we come back that will bring you, it'll be a short one, so if you don't like meditating, I promise it won't be long. We're going to work on authentic self. Okay? Thank you. We're right back. Welcome back. This is Rosemary DiTrolio. This is the Lightwalker's Path. And one of the things I had asked before the break was to write down something that resonated with you. So I'm going to read a couple comments. So my value is, I'm a good listener. I find people only listen and don't respond to me, and they don't understand. One of the things that's really common is when you have someone that you're talking to and it's a monologue, not a dialogue. You want a dialogue of give and take between two people. And sometimes it's a listening skill. People don't even realize they're doing it, and they're not listening to what you're saying because they're so interested in what they want to tell you. So that's it. Uh, Janice said truth and honesty is important to her. Gina said telling the truth in a kind and helpful way. That's really important because as you learn something, you have to understand that maybe the other person doesn't always understand you the way that you want them to understand you. And part of it is communicating to that person in a way so that they understand what you feel and your emotions. Sometimes it's just rephrasing. So if I want someone to listen to me, and they're just talking, talking, talking. Sometimes you have to develop a skill that is something even to say, listen, I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you. Let me just give you my point of view. It may be something that you have to be kind of direct with, or it may just be a skill that other person lacks. And you'll find that the more that you're able to remind the other person that you have a viewpoint, the more that they will understand that you have a viewpoint and maybe they're talking too much. Okay. So I was going to walk you through a very light relaxation where we're going to see what your inner self wants to tell you. So the first thing I want you to do, you can keep your eyes open or closed or just listen in if you're listening at work or something. And I want you to imagine that you are standing inside a giant redwood tree. The tree is tall and you become part of the center of this tree. So like the tree, you have these very deep roots that go deep into the earth. And the tree is so big and bright and beautiful, the branches reach the light above it. You can tap into this energy of the tree, this live, beautiful, grounded energy. And then I want you to go back to the heart center we talked about. Just like the tree has a heart center, you have a heart center, the tree has a heart center. And you can go into this beautiful heart center and you are at one with it. And as you tap into the loving energy of your own heart, you can say, am I living my authentic self? You get a yes or a no. The next question is, what mask do I have to wear, or what mask have I worn? Masks are these things that we show other people that may not be who we really are. I want you to think of who you are deep down when no one's looking. Like what's in there deep down? I want you to ask yourself, what is my core value? What is my truth? Who am I? And just see if any words come in, any insights come in. Who am I? What is my truth? And just sit with that for a moment. And then you can slowly open your eyes. So your authentic self is often what other people aren't always seeing. For instance, if you're a people pleaser, you might be running around trying to make everybody happy, but inside you might be seething. How come they don't appreciate me? I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Aren't they noticing? Your authentic self needs attention. Your authentic self needs to express itself, to say, this is what I need from you. Your authentic self has to be brave enough to come out and play, right? Kids are really their authentic self. When they're really young, they blurt stuff out left and right. And what do we do as adults? Don't say that. You're going to upset grandma. Don't say that. You're going to upset blah, 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 blah. And we kind of shut down authentic self. We don't mean to. We're trying to socialize our kids so that they're not obnoxious in the real world, right? But on the same token, what you need to teach your children, and this is something that I really believe, is they have to have a voice, but they can have a voice in a respectful way. When they're really young, they don't know. They're just going to blurt, I'm unhappy, I don't like this. As an adult, we're doing the same thing, but we're screaming inside. So what you have to do is to practice, practice expressing what you want to say in a positive way. And it could even be something like, I really feel valued when you listen to my opinion. I feel so valued when you give me time to share how I'm feeling. I really feel valued by your friendship when you trust that I have an opinion and that we can talk about it without getting into an argument. Those are positive ways to express yourself and find your authentic self. And when you find your authentic self, it's actually the beginning of awakening to who you are. Because you might find when you're searching in your authentic self that maybe you always wanted to be a healer, but you were afraid to say. Maybe you always wanted to go back to college, but you never did. Maybe you want to take a course to speak in public, but you're afraid. So, your authentic self are things you really want to do that you might be afraid to do. Part of awakening means being able to understand that your opinion might be different than other people as well. For instance, when I started working in the angel realm and I was channeling angels, don't you realize that I was pretty scared to tell people I was doing that because I was raised with the belief that we're not supposed to do that. You know, I was raised Roman Catholic. There's a lot of fear in that religion. But I had to be brave enough to do what I knew my heart and my spiritual awakening was telling me in order to do what I'm doing to help people today. And part of that was challenging beliefs that I have always held, challenging beliefs that I was taught. One of my stories, and I mean no disrespect to those people in the religious community, I love you dearly. But when I was going to CCD training, I was about 7 years old. And you know, you're learning all the things so you could take First Holy Communion. And one of the teachers I had was this really unsavory, unhappy nun. And I love to call her Sister Mary Constipation because she was just not a nice woman. And one of the things she kept telling us is that if you sin or make a mistake, God will burn you in hell. Now, here we are, a bunch of wide eyed 7-year-olds. And I knew the woman was wrong. And I was a 7-year-old kid and I was very shy. But of course, you know, I raised my hand to set the woman straight, right? I was not catching the clues. Her eyes were getting blinky winky. She's like, "Yes, what do you want, little girl?" And I said, "Sister, I said, God loves everybody. God will not burn you if you make a mistake. We're all forgiven." And this woman, like, I wasn't catching it, but she was getting all winky blinky and her head was spinning around. And, you know, she yelled at me, "How dare you say that about me? How do you know you're a child?" And then, you know, I sat down and started to cry, but I also knew she was still wrong. Thank goodness I knew that. When you listen to or go back to things in the Bible and you realize that, you know, Jesus was sitting on a mountain talking to kids and people, and the children were entering heaven, you know, children's souls enter heaven easily because they're so close to God. I think the woman lost her way and she was probably very unhappy. And maybe she was living in a very fear based way herself. Therefore, she was transferring this fear to us as little children. One of the things I had to do as an adult to follow my own spiritual path was to push away these fears that I had from that early training, from other people telling me that there's only certain things we're allowed to do. Thank goodness my own parents weren't like that because that could have really shut me down. So instead, I decided to walk forward and continue to work with the angel realm, continue to speak about what I knew. And I often tell people if it's not in your realm of experience, it's fine. If what I say doesn't resonate with you, that's fine. I honor what resonates with you for your sake because your path might be different than mine. If your religion is different than mine, I honor you because you are finding God or your higher power in the way that you need to. Everyone comes to it in a different way or in their own way, and that's fine. Okay. And like I was saying, you know, fear pushes people away instead of brings them closer sometimes. And sometimes religions do that. That woman, if I listened to her back when I was 7 years old, I would have never said a word. I would have not been doing what I'm doing today. I would have not been able to help people that I've helped because it would have the fear would have blocked me. I had other things happen when I first started channeling. I was working, you know, praying to God and then connecting with my angels and then work, you know, channeling messages. And one night I had an extremely frightening visitor in my dream state when I'm like half awake, half asleep, and it scared the bejiggers out of me. And what I did instead was I said a prayer and I said, listen, light is stronger than darkness. I'm not going to give in to this fear. And I just prayed and I was able to move ahead. If I would have let that fearful image stop me, I would have been stopped because it was really frightening. And I could have thought, oh, the devil's out to get me. The darkness is getting me. I'm cursed. But I didn't think that way because I know that light's always stronger than darkness and God's always with me. So in my faith, I'm like, I didn't have to have fear of this thing any longer. That fear was my ego. I don't have to worry about that because God's in charge. And if I'm supposed to say this stuff and I'm supposed to work with people, I'm going to be guided. And I had that faith and I was guided. One of the things I do for my business is I do teach people how to safely connect with the divine realm. I guide people through one-to-one talk sessions and guidances. I do angel readings for people. I do a host of workshops, and I have many also self-study workshops on my website. The one that's free is called Dip Your Toe In, and I hope people will take that one and try it out. And I'm working on a new course called Energy and how to work with energy. Even if you are not a Reiki master teacher, a Reiki person, a prana healer, it's all about energy and how to use it and how to help yourself using energy. So I hope people will explore that. I should probably have that one done within the next month. And, I'll mention it again on another podcast. So if you find yourself in need of a transformational talk session, you can contact me at info@rosemaryd.com. And you'll see my website address is up there. And we're coming up on a sponsor break in a minute. This is the Lightwalker's Path. Please stay with me. We'll be right back. Hi, welcome back. This is the Lightwalker's Path, Grow Your Spirit with Rosemary. And I just got a text message. Looking forward to your new course. It's important to go with the flow. Grounding, love your grounding meditation. Wonderful. Thank you. So again, we were talking about spiritual awakenings, and I wanted to just give you a couple things that you can think about. So the spiritual awakening is a path that opens up what you came here to do. So this is kind of like your spiritual path. Okay. Things you can ask yourself. Who am I? What are my values? What do I believe? Understanding that there are different ways to look at things and different perspectives and allowing them in so that you can understand them and see if they fit right for you. What spiritual principles guide you in your life? These are also your values. So are you living with honesty? If I'm saying I'm an honest person and I find, and I go to the cashier and she gives me $5 too much, do I keep it or do I go back and give her the money? That's a tough one, right? Because it's like, we'll finders keepers. But no, she's going to have to count that drawer out and she's going to get in trouble if you don't return that money. So part of it is living what you say you believe, right? Are you living in or out of alignment with what your truth is? If you are out of alignment with your truth, you're not living your authentic self. Chances are you're wearing a mask that might be how you show the world, but not how you really are or how you really feel. You don't have to abandon your faith, but you can expand your faith. So for instance, I'm not going to, throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak. Just because you have an expanded belief of something doesn't mean that the whole religious belief that you have is wrong. It just means you're expanding your current information about what you know about God or your higher power. Living in gratefulness, and gratitude is a way to grow yourself and to shift yourself. Another thing to be aware of is the law of attraction. And this was a cute little story that I have. When I was working as a teacher, I was rushing to work one day and I really wanted a coffee and I really wanted a bagel. I had no time. I rushed out of the house. I was almost late. The weather was bad. So I got into work and I had this thought like, oh my goodness, I really would love a cup of Dunkin' Donuts coffee, my favorite, and I would love a bagel. So I get to work And this woman comes in and she's grumbling. I'm like, what is wrong? She says, I was at Dunkin' Donuts. I don't know why, but they gave me this coffee that isn't how I like it. They gave me a black coffee and they gave me this bagel with cream cheese. And I don't like cream cheese. And I didn't want a bagel. I wanted jelly on it. Here I am with a black coffee and a bagel with cream cheese. And I started laughing. She goes, what's funny? I said, I was just thinking how I would love a black coffee and a bagel and cream cheese. And here you are. So I got a bagel and cream cheese and a coffee for nothing. And it was because of that thought I had. That's called the law of attraction. It's when your heart centered energy goes out to the universe and someone picks up that energy and then delivers this thing to you. It happened with coffee, but it happens a lot of other ways too. When I was setting up my office years ago, I was looking for a desk, but I didn't want to pay more than $50. All right, so where am I going to find a beautiful Chippendale desk with these fancy legs that's going to be in my office that fits exactly right in the space I need it? So instead of stressing about it, I tried law of attraction. I visualized this beautiful wood desk with the fancy legs. I visualized the price I wanted to pay. And I just got this inclination to get in my car and drive. And there was like a local flea market spot. I pulled over and I looked to the right, and there's a Chippendale desk, perfect size that I wanted, exactly what I visualized. I went to the man and I said, how much do you want for the desk? He goes, $200. I said, I'll give you 50. He goes, okay, I'll help you get it in your car. So I got the perfect desk for $50, exactly what I wanted, and it was my price. I had other weird things happen when I was setting up my healing office. I was in a shop, one of the stores, like a Target or something, and I was looking for mugs that would match the clouds I painted on the walls in my office. And of course, what are the chances, right? So I'm going through the store, and there's like an underwear, where they sell like undergarments. So I'm looking, and there is a set of mugs shoved under these underwear. I'm like, that's weird. I picked it up. They had clouds all over the glasses, and it was on sale for I think $6. And there was like 7 or 8 mugs in there. So I bought it for my office, and it was a perfect match to what I had already. So these things, that's called the law of attraction. And the more that you're pretty good at using heart energy to put it toward what you want, the easier it becomes. It's almost magical. I always think of like the kid that wants that bicycle on Christmas. And, he has this, he knows he's going to get it, right? And he has this heart centered wish. And mom and dad go to the store and they get exactly what the kid wants. It's kind of like that feeling. It's like a Christmas morning feeling where you look under the tree and there it is. There's those mugs. There's that desk I wanted. It happens in many different ways, even to bigger things that you're looking for. When I was writing one of my books, I wanted to do a book signing. So instead of stressing about it, I went into my heart center and I visualized myself doing a book signing at a local place. And within about a week or two, I got an email out of the blue, so to speak, that asked me to do a book signing at a local metaphysical fair, and I wound up doing a talk and a book signing at that event. I've had other strange things like that happen to me a lot. Those synchronicities show that I am in alignment with what my purpose is. And the more in alignment you are with your true purpose and path, the more those coincidences and synchronicities and law of attraction will work for you instead of against you. And so that's a really neat, fun thing to do. I actually do teach a law of attraction workshop. If you're interested and you're in New Jersey, and I post that again, let me know you're interested and I'll put you on the list for that when I decide to do that in-person class again. Visualizing is a really powerful tool that you can use. So I want to leave you with the thought that we are all shifting and changing. And if you need help and guidance in shifting or changing, you can book a session on rosemaryd.com. Contact me at info@rosemaryd.com. I teach people through workshops and sessions and my books that you can find on there. So thank you so much for attending today. Oh, we got one more comment I don't want to miss. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Law of Attraction. Love the story. Thank you for enjoying that. I would like you to check back every Tuesday. If you want to catch this later and listen to it again, it'll be up on my website archive. So let me know. This is the Lightwalker's Path on Bold Brave TV. Please come back to this station at 10 Eastern on Tuesdays. And again, contact me about workshops, sessions, books, self-study courses, in-person courses, and Zoom sessions. I look forward to hearing from you. This is Rosemary, the Lightwalker's Path. Thanks.
I'm your host, Rosemary DiTrolio, and you've been watching and listening to The Lightwalker's Path. Learn about my workshops, sessions, courses, and more at info@rosemaryd.com. My website, rosemaryd.com, Hands of Light by Rosemary. Have a blessed and beautiful day.